There we go. Now we have to work on the last question, number 32. So number 32, I could give you a law of sine or a law of cosine question like this. Before we move on, let's just, oh, this is law of cosine. But anyhow, before we move on, I want to make sure that we talk about this. The law of sine was, sine A over side A, sine B over side B, and sine C over side C. And we use this for ASA, AAS, and SSA, okay? And this was the tricky one, the high maintenance one, okay? You could have 0, 1, or 2 triangles. We also have the law of cosine. And I told you to use, this method using your fingers, right? So there you go. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC, and then it's cosine A. Okay, it's just like that. And when do we use this? SSS or SAS? Okay, so first when you look at a triangle, you got to determine what kind of triangle it is, what information you have. And then you have to use the law of sine or the law of cosine. And then we had a complicated case right here, the ambiguous case, right? Okay, so the letters would be different, but just remember you use your two fingers, and if this is the angle A here, you put your fingers right there, okay? And then this would be side B and C. That's why B squared plus C squared, and then minus 2 times B times C, and then it's cosine A, all right? So I just wanted to make sure that you get that, all right? You should have that in your notes somewhere. So let's solve this triangle. I'm looking and I have side, side, side. So if you look over here, remember side, 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 we gotta use what? Law of cosine. So I'm going to just put side, side, side. So I know I gotta use the law of cosine. So then now let's see what I need to do. Now whenever we have the SSS, I told you just start with the biggest angle because that's just the easiest, right? So we don't end up, stuck with the ambiguous case. All right, so let's see. How do you find out which angle is the biggest? Well, the angle opposite the biggest side, the longest side, will be the biggest angle. So we're gonna go ahead and find measure of angle S first, okay? So measure of angle S. And so then the formula goes, I'm supposed to put my finger right here. So then the opposite side would be 58, right? So 58 squared is equal to 49 squared minus plus 44 squared, and then minus 2 times 49 and 44. Remember, the reason why we put our finger here is because we already know that the opposite side squared is equal to this side squared plus that side squared minus 2 times this side times that side times cosine S, right? That's why we use the finger method, right? So there you go. Then this is cosine S, okay? So then I said we're trying to find cosine S, or more like S. So what we need to do is we need to subtract the 49 squared and subtract the 44 squared, right? So then when you do that, you're going to get 58 squared minus 49 squared minus 44 squared. But then these all went away, so I'm left with just that. Negative 2 times 49 times 44 times cosine S. And then of course we want to get rid of all of this because we want to leave the cosine S by itself. So divide both sides by negative 2 times 49 times 44. Okay? There you go. So all of this cancel out on this side. You're left with cosine S, okay? But what are we trying to find? Are we trying to find cosine S or the measure of angle S? Yeah, we want to find the measure of angle S, right? So what do we have to do? We have to find the inverse. So let's go ahead and find the inverse, okay? There you go. Oops. Why is it red? The inverse of all of that. And that would be the measure of angle S. So let's go into our handy dandy calculator. And over here, I just want to remind you to find the inverse of cosine, you gotta go here, so that would be our cosine. And then you see how there's a parenthesis? Well, you need to put another parenthesis right in there because you have to put all the numbers on top. You know, n squared is right here. Okay, and then you come here, right here, okay, and then you click on the division symbol, which is right here, and then everything goes on top, right? And then multiply by -2 and put all your numbers in parentheses because that's the same as multiplying. So then it gives you the answer, 76.9, but after 9 is the 5, so you got to add 1 to the 9, which gives you 77.0. Okay? So S is equal to 77.0 degrees. Now we want to find the measure of angle T. Why? Because after S, measure of angle T is the next biggest angle because the opposite side is 49, and 49 is the second biggest number, you know, among all three. So let's find the measure of angle T. And so it's the same thing. We're going to use the finger method, okay? So I'm going to put my finger right here. So the opposite side, 49 squared is equal to 44 squared plus 58 squared times, minus -2 times 44 times 58, and then cosine t, right? Okay, easy enough. So let's write this down. Oops. 49 squared equals 44 squared plus 58 squared minus 2 times 44 times 58, and then this is the law of cosine, so we're using cosine t. Okay, so same thing as we did earlier. We want to get rid of the 44 squared and the 58 squared, so let's do that. And that's going to give us and then this is gone. And what we want is cosine t. So we're going to divide both sides by all of that. And that gives us, because all of this will now disappear, that gives us that. But we don't want cosine t, we want the measure of angle t, so we gotta find the inverse. The inverse, okay? So I gotta go to the next page. We gotta find the inverse of cosine, and we have to put all of that in there. And that would be the measure of angle t. So let's go into our calculator. And so that would be the arc cosine of, right? Because that's the inverse. And then we have 49 squared minus 44 squared minus 58 squared. Oh, I forgot to put another parenthesis right here because we need it. And then in between these two parentheses, just click on divide, right? Sometimes you don't know how to use decimals. I don't understand why. This is like the best thing ever. For me, that is. 44 and then 58. It's so easy because you just have to punch in all the numbers. So then you're going to get 55.39. So it's 55.4, right? So T is equal to 55.4 degrees. So then now all we have left is the measure of angle R, right? Which is very easy because we already got the two angles out of the three, so we just subtract from 180, right? So let's just go back to the picture. We already got R and we got T. So to find S, all we have to, my bad. We got S and T. So to find R, all we have to do is 180 minus this plus that, right? So let's do it. 180 minus 55.4 is right here. Measure of angle T plus, what's the other angle? 77.0, right? So that would be 180 minus 132.4, and that's going to give me 47.6. So we are done, and again, list everything for me in alphabetical order. So the measure of angle R is 47.6. Measure of angle S is 77.0. Don't forget the 0.0, that's kind of important. Measure of angle T is 55.4. Because the question said round to the nearest tenth, right? And all three sides were given to us, but I'm just going to write it because I have to, right? So on the test, this is what you have to do. All right? And so that's it. I have one more example, and you have to use the law of sine, but I think my time's up. Let's see. Not really. So instead of solving everything for the next question, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the question and tell you what to do. Let's see. This is a SSA triangle. Oh no. AAS triangle. What's wrong with me? Here's an angle, and then here's a side, right? So that's AAS triangle. So if we have an AAS triangle, what are we using? Okay, so go back to the chart right here. AAS is right here. So we have to use what? The law of sine. Okay, so make sure you use the law of sine. The first thing that I would do is I would find the measure of this angle, 180 minus these two, right? And then we'll use the law of sine to find the measure of angle H first, okay? Because it's already given. So sine 47 over 6.5 equals sine 60 over H. Now AAS is not the ambiguous case, so you only have one triangle, so you don't have to pull out all your hair, okay? So after you are done, just so you can check your answer, let me give you all the measurements, okay? Measure of angle F is 73 degrees. Measure of angle G was given to us, 47 degrees. Measure of angle H was given to us, 60. And then F is 8.5. G is 6.5. And H is 7.7, okay? So, I hope you have fun. Study.